Do you believe they made enough moves to replace Landeskog with the moving pieces that they did to center around their core to make another run at the Cup?
Hey, guys, yeah, thank you so much for having me to make it short and sweet for that one, and I'll elaborate, but yes, absolutely. I think that this is kind of like round two of the acceptance of not having Landeskog. We saw it a little bit last season, and I felt that at that trade deadline, there weren't enough moves made, and they were sort of maybe half hoping we were going to see the return of Gabe. It didn't happen. I feel that maybe they learned their lesson. They know they needed to really shore up this offense, especially in that middle six area and their net front presence and their physicality. And I think they successfully went out and addressed that in numerous ways, not just from a sole, okay, we're going to physically replace him with a 2C and Ryan Johansson, but in some of the other elements of, okay, who's going to be that net front guy, that guy on the power play, the guy who's willing to be physical, delay the big hits, potentially even, get in a scrum or two. And they did that with not just Johansson, but they did it with a guy like Miles Wood, bringing in that physicality. They did it with Colton, bringing in more energy. They seem to have addressed the absence of what Gabe not being there on the ice has with multiple guys. And then, of course, we know he is still around. There's still that leadership. But the guys they brought in, they're also veterans. So they bring in that leadership, that character, that culture that I think maybe was something else that was really, maybe not lacking, but could use a little bit of a boost. And I think they did that in numerous ways. And I'm really, really excited about the depth that I feel this team has heading into this season as opposed to what it didn't really feel like it had last year.
In recent years, acquisitions such as Nazem Kadri, Andrei Burakovsky have had career years here in Denver playing for Jared Bednar. You've watched this team some in the preseason, not that there is a whole lot to be gleaned from watching hockey's very brief preseason, but do you have any guess as to which of the newest acquisitions might be most likely to break through with something resembling a career year, now playing, generally speaking, for teams that are stronger than the ones that they played on previously?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the most obvious potential answer for this, and will again remains to be seen, but Jonathan Drouin, there's so much to be seen from him. There's so much that's been maybe, sitting on the shelf that just hasn't developed the way that anyone thought. I mean, this is a first-round top 3 draft pick. So, I mean, it's an easy answer to say that, he has underperformed in his career, and it would be really awesome and kind of, I'm expecting to see that emergence from him, that career year like you used, but if he's getting an opportunity better than he's had anywhere else. So it makes a lot of sense that there's a huge chance for him to take that next step. If he can deliver playing on a top line with Nathan MacKinnon, he's already gotten looks all preseason long on that top power play unit, which if you guys have looked at it, it's absolutely scary how good it looks on paper, and we've already seen glimpses of the success they've had just in the preseason. But I would put that up against just about any top power play unit in the NHL with the personnel and the options that they have. So Jonathan Drouin definitely is one. He also has everything to prove. There's some pressure on him, and he's aware of it. He's addressed it throughout camp. He knows that this is not maybe his last chance, but it sort of feels that way. He's on league minimum. He's got a 1-year prove-yourself deal, and he's got every chance to make it happen, and he's got every opportunity to really be successful with the way that he's being placed in this lineup so far. The other one, I don't know career year-wise, but another guy who just definitely has something to prove, who really wants to revitalize himself, who ultimately also really wants to finally win that cup, is Ryan Johansson. And he's got a great opportunity as well on a team that's been better than some of the ones he's been on in the past. he's come into this camp with a very aggressive and hungry attitude. He's working really hard. We've already seen how well he's done meshing with these guys, and he brings in that veteran presence and just really great in front of the net. I've loved him in the bumper position in that net front spot where we used to see Landeskog. He's got the bigger body, so that's exciting as well. So those are just two guys who, in my opinion, have a lot of potential to have a career year, a big year. But, Ross Colton is another one you could easily say because he's gotten less opportunity being on a stacked Tampa team. Now he comes in here, huge opportunity for him to take on an even bigger role, and that leads to great success and great numbers. So there's a lot to be excited about in terms of guys who have all the potential in the world, and I'm expecting to see them live up to it.
Late moves for the Avalanche as they get the roster set today as they leave for L.A. Pavel Francouz placed on the LTIR with the groin injury. Unfortunate news there. They go ahead and make a move to acquire a goaltender off of the Arizona Coyotes. They grabbed him on Monday. Ivan Prospetov has been added there. He'll be competing apparently with Justus Annunen, of course, with the Avs' top prospect in net. All three of them listed on the roster as they go along, and then the move there to put Francouz on the LTIR also allows them to bring Riley Tuft back, who's never quite gone as things hoped when he was a 2016 first-round pick, but a big 6-foot guy, scored 19 goals in the AHL, and then they make a trade for Caleb Burke. They trade Callahan Burke, and they go ahead and then they add another defenseman in Caleb Jones, Seth Jones' younger brother. All these moves happen in the last 36 hours, roughly. It happens pretty quick and late. What do you make of those moves? I don't think any of those players are set for significant minutes, but the Avalanche sort of finding spots for specific players. What are they trying to hold? Are they trying to fill particular things, or is this purely an adjustment because of the injury to Francouz and the nature of what that does to goaltending?
Yeah, so Coach addressed it a little bit actually today after they skated before they head out to L.A. and talked about how the flexibility of having more cap because of putting Francouz on the LTIR is allowing them to carry more guys. And he specifically said they really like to have a few more guys around, especially for practice. So adding Jones, if they do want to carry him as a potential 7th D. They also have Tufte called up. I really like the Tufte opportunity. I was so glad to see that he cleared waivers because he's one guy that when you think about, okay, training camp, who's going to be the surprise? Who's going to be the guy that just really turns heads and earns their spot? That was Tufte. He really performed well. It was in a tough position because they only really needed that one spot for the center position on that fourth line. He did not succeed as much in the center role. He's much more of a natural winger. But he did so well at camp. You just felt like this guy deserves to get a taste, to get a reward here. So seeing him called up, seeing him on that official first roster, it's exciting. He's going to have that opportunity, maybe playing some low-level minutes, traveling with the team, being that extra forward. But Coach talked a lot about how last year they were, because of injuries, constantly forced to be calling guys up and down and putting more stress and more minutes on their big stars. So by having these extra players around because of the cap room they have, the extra salary space, they are kind of eliminating that. They're being able to take off the pressure from those top guys. They can make little adjustments from game to game. And I'm really excited to see that. I think from Tufte's perspective, Coach talked a lot about wanting to be able to add that size. Now we've got him and McDermott both sitting on the wings, waiting for that opportunity. So certainly a nice option there from a forward perspective. And then goaltending, Coach was pretty honest. He said, we've got the 3 guys. We don't really have a decision made in terms of who the number 2 will be. Of course, we know Georgiev is going to carry the load for the majority of this. And Annunen is a guy you maybe want to see down in the AHL because you want him getting more minutes. Picking up Prospetov off of waivers also, if they did put him down, leaves him vulnerable to get picked back up. So it feels like the goaltending situation is pretty set with Georgiev and our new friend from Arizona. But regardless, Coach just seemed very encouraged by the fact that, well, obviously you don't want to have Frankie on the LTIR. This really does allow them to have more options, more depth, more flexibility, barring, whatever adjustments they need to make throughout the beginnings of the season.
Naturally, the lingering memories of last year center on the first-round playoff loss. to Seattle in 7 games, and especially the 7th game, which was highly frustrating to watch from an Avalanche point of view, a 2-1 loss. You had the feeling that the Avalanche were a little fatigued going into the playoffs, but the fact of the matter is that they did finish in first place in their division, coming from fairly far back, and they did finish 31-7-4 over the final 42 games, and those 42 games were played in many instances without Makar, certainly without Landeskog right throughout. Some key guys like Byram and Manson, who are being counted on this year. I guess my question to you would be, are they healthy enough to play maybe not in quite the manner they did in the last 42 games, but a lot closer to 31-7-4 than 20-17-3, which is how they started last year? And how healthy are they as we speak going into this season? Or are there still some holdover concerns with respect to injury?
For sure. So coming into today, we got to see Andrew Cogliano out of the red jersey, which is encouraging. He's feeling really good. He's really close. And he even said, compared to some of the injuries that he's had to work through and deal with in his past, in his career, this one hasn't been that bad, I guess. He said the recovery essentially was, really successful. It went really well. So that makes you feel even more encouraged that not only is he, he's back on opening night, but no, he's actually feeling very good. Josh Manson, same thing. He definitely struggled a little bit throughout some of the course of the summer. There were moments throughout his injury where he definitely maybe didn't progress to the point where they wanted, but he has looked fantastic throughout the start of camp. He's energized. He's ready to go. Cale Makar, as we know, is back and is ready. They were being overly cautious, and rightfully so, not rushing him as you wouldn't with any superstar during your preseason. But in general, you can just see that the group has so much more energy. They are rested. Nobody wants to have a first-round exit, but unfortunately, with the way the season went last year, it was going to be an almost impossible hill that they had to climb. And there was a sense of relief in a way at the end of that season, knowing they still had such an unbelievable group. They were going to get the rest and the time that they needed. And I anticipate the start of this season being much more successful. Of course, no one can predict the future, but these guys, they look healthy, they look energized, they look rested and ready to avoid some of those unavoidable injuries that you face when you are coming off a short off season and a Stanley Cup run. This doesn't feel anything like that. This group is ready to go, and I'm really encouraged that, they've been able to push. But Coach also said today, this group has a lot more veterans than some teams. You don't need to push these guys. It's important to find the balance and give them the time away. They know how to take care of their bodies. They know how to be ready when they need to be ready. So we're not out here killing them every single day, because these guys, that's not what they need. They need to be able to take that time away, show up, be ready to work, and we saw that today. And yesterday's practice in particular, they went really hard. They're going to be ready to go. It's going to be a much different start to the season than last year.
We'll get a chance to see them tomorrow night as the Kings host the Avalanche for the season opener. And, of course, you can catch Katie on the broadcast on Altitude with regularity, so make sure you give her a follow at Katie_Gaus. That's Gaus, and we hope to have an opportunity to break all this down with you as the much-anticipated season goes along. Appreciate all the insight, Katie. Thank you.